Good afternoon and welcome to this Wednesday, February 27th edition of Westman Newsline. I'm Randy Joseph Lilly alongside Travis Giesbrett and Colton Yarch. In today's news, reports show that Manitoba has among the highest rates for violence against women, and a Rosenort man is being charged with fraud, which involved a Brandon Church organization. And Travis will be in with sports. Travis, the Winnipeg Jets just completed a 4-game road trip and they wrapped up things last night in New York. Was it an easy liftoff?
You could say the road trip and last night's game encountered some turbulence but managed a safe landing. And in Canadian basketball news, Ottawa's new team is changing their name after some outrage on social media. I'll have those stories and more later on in sports.
Thanks, Travis. And Colton will be in with weather. Colton, it's the penultimate episode of Westman Newsline for this season. Delight us.
I'd be happy to, Randy. It's beautiful outside and it's only going to get better. Currently in Brandon, it's partly cloudy and -5. Winds are out of the north-northeast at 18 kilometers per hour. That's it for now, but I'll be back later on in the show with your full weather details.
Thanks, Colton. The head of a Winnipeg women's shelter says the high rate of reported violent crime against women in Manitoba is actually good news. Barbara Judd of Osborne House says it tells her that women are reaching out for help. A Statistics Canada report shows the rate of reported violent crime against women in Manitoba is almost double the national average. In Brandon alone, there is an average of 167 cases of women reporting they have been the victims of domestic abuse every year, and 150 women seek refuge at the local YMCA Brandon Women's Shelter. A 30-year-old man from Rosenort is to appear on court on April 8th to face a charge of over $5,000. The man was discovered after an audit uncovered a substantial amount of missing money from a Brandon Church organization, which reported it to the police after auditors showed up. The man is a former employee and has been accused of charging large amounts of personal debts to his company credit card over a period of 2.5 years. A poll suggests 71% of Manitobans surveyed support a law that would phase out the use and sale of lawn and garden pesticides. The poll was released by the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment in Manitoba's Green Action Centre. It suggests support for a ban is strongest in rural areas and weakest among people in the suburbs. Lawn and garden pesticides are already banned in 6 provinces from Ontario to Newfoundland. Some research has shown links between pesticide exposure and childhood cancer, birth defects, neurological problems, and respiratory illness. The Manitoba government has been looking at similar legislation. Last year, the federal government announced that several Veterans Affairs offices would be closing in the near future. Nationwide, Veterans Affairs Canada will be losing 784 jobs after a budget cut of $66.7 million. 8 locations are scheduled for closure, including the office in Brandon. Veterans will now be required to travel to CFB Shiloh or Winnipeg to directly visit Veterans Affairs instead of visiting the Service Canada building on Princess Avenue. In a city that honors its veterans and plans to build a new memorial next to the Brandon Armory, is this an error in judgment by the federal government? A veteran of Bosnia said he will not be affected by the closure.
I'm involved with Veterans Affairs for many years. Most of the time, you go into Winnipeg anyways. And now that I've got a caseworker, my caseworker assigned to me is out of Saskatoon. So the office in Brandon really didn't provide much service.
Both Veterans Affairs in Brandon and CFB Shiloh refused to comment. The winter months are coming to a close, and before we know it, it will be spring. For those looking to get out and enjoy the Manitoba winter before it's gone, Hanbury Hill offers exciting family fun, and Westman Newsline's own Graham Leachman slid in to file this report.
With this nice weather that Brandon has experienced this past weekend, Hanbury Hill, located just north of the Sportsplex, has been filled with patrons tobogganing and experiencing the great outdoors.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day for sledding, and we thought we'd get out and have some fun and enjoy the fresh air.
Ray Plasuska explains sledding is an inexpensive way to get active.
It's good exercise and it doesn't cost anything, and we live in the neighborhood, so it's nice and handy and convenient, and a good way to spend the afternoon.
Not only is it inexpensive, it's fun as well.
Just to have some fun. Just get big air.
Here we go!
Hanbury Hill is open to the public every day. For Westman Newsline, I'm videographer Graham Leachman.
When people think of the Manitoba prairies, they think of wide open, flat land, which is not the kind of terrain that naturally lends itself to any kind of skiing except cross-country. But a few action sports enthusiasts have found ways to engage in their favorite activity without traveling to ski hills or mountains. Leland Curtin and his friends love the sport so much they do whatever it takes to go skiing. If that means driving to secret spots on the outskirts of town to ride the walls of demolished buildings using bungee cords, that's exactly what they'll do. And when they want to fly, they'll find shovels and build themselves some of the biggest ski jumps this province has ever seen.
In about an hour, we're going out to probably the biggest jump that's been in the prairies ever. It's about 60 to 80 foot gap. Planning on trying my first double flip ever. It's going to be pretty ridiculous. It's a sled tow in. We're probably going to be going 60, 70 kilometers an hour into it. It's going to be wild. Today's wall hit. We went out there early this morning for the nice beautiful sun we have today. It was a big old abandoned wall. It was from the old residential school. And we just thought it was a great idea to try to catch tranny off this wall. It is a nice big 15-foot drop onto a concrete brick wall. There's broken glass, concrete, rebar everywhere. It's pretty sketchy. We landed it though. That's all that counts.
And with that, let's take a look at where today's money markets are currently sitting.
Westman Newsline, produced by the IMA Media Production students of Assiniboine Community College. Local news, weather, and sports on Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline, airing at 1 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on WCG TV.
In front of rapt crowds, Pope Benedict XVI spoke of moments of joy and struggle Wednesday during his final public address from a stage set up in St. Peter's Square. Dressed all in white and looking serene, the Pope used his last general audience to call for a renewal of faith and speak of his own spiritual journey through 8 years as leader of the world's 1.2 billion Catholics. As he finished, cheers erupted from the tens of thousands gathered in the square, acknowledged by Benedict with an open-armed embrace. As well as calling for a renewal of faith, he discussed his experience as pontiff and his almost unprecedented decision to resign the role starting Thursday. Gas prices here in Brandon have gone up 8 cents a liter, to $1.15, and motorists south of the border are feeling pain at the pump as well as gas prices soar. Carl Azuz explains where each dollar goes when you fill up with gas.
Prices make you want to scream. Try not to deafen the guy in the convenience store. It's not usually his fault. Store markup barely adds to the price of gas. If you really want to blame someone, you could blame OPEC. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, a group of 12 nations, has a significant influence on the cost of crude oil. For every dollar you spend on gas, crude takes the biggest chunk, about 72 cents. The second largest factor in the price, taxes. The U.S. federal government has a tax on every gallon bought. So do state and local governments, whose taxes depend on where you live. They all add up to approximately 13 cents on every gas dollar. Unfortunately for drivers, we can't just take oil from the ground, filter out the dirt, and stick it in our gas tanks. We've got to pay for the cost of refining, the process of turning crude into actual gasoline. That covers about 8 cents on our rapidly shrinking dollar. And then actually getting gasoline to stations and maybe throwing in an advertisement here and there makes up 7 cents on the buck. Now all that adds up to $1, 100% of the cost of gas. So you can see how an actual filling station has practically no influence on the price. It does get a cent or two, but if you go inside and buy a drink and a donut, that helps keep their business fueled. Carl Azuz, CNN, Atlanta.
That's it for news, but stay tuned. Colton's up next with Newsline Weather.
Good afternoon with Newsline Weather. I'm Colton Yarge. I am pleased to tell you, you can enjoy the weather we'll see in the coming days much more than your 2 minutes with me. Currently in Brandon, it's partly cloudy and -5. Winds are out of the north-northeast at 18 kilometers per hour. This evening, expect a cloudy sky and a temperature of -12, but the winds will be calm. Overnight, those clouds will hang around, will drop to -16, and there will be a very light wind. Taking a look at our radar image, not much in terms of precipitation as we look around the Brandon area. Moving to our satellite image, this cloud cover from the central United States should make its way to Brandon near the weekend. Turning to our 5-day forecast now, we will see sunshine for only a couple of days, then that cloud cover I mentioned will fill the sky. Still beautiful temperatures, however, hovering around -5. Winds will pick up on Sunday and into Monday, with some flurries expected on Sunday as well. Now let's take a look around the region. Winnipeg is in at -4, Portage la Prairie and Dauphin are both in at -6. Neepawa checks in at -5. Meanwhile, Carberry -6. Killarney and Minnedosa are both in at -5, and Verdun will round us out in at -6. Seasonal norms for this time of year are a high of -6 and a low of -16. The record high was set back in 1988 when we hit a glorious 13.4. The record low was a hideous -40.6 back in 1962. Once again in Brandon, it's partly cloudy and -5. Winds are out of the northeast at 18 kilometers per hour. That's it for weather, but stick around. Travis is up next with Newsline Sports.
Good afternoon with Newsline Sports. I'm Travis Kiesbrett. The Brandon Wheat Kings will be back in action tonight at home against Swift Current. The Wheat Kings have been struggling as of late and look to pick up a victory. However, another local team that has seen great success on their last road trip, which wrapped up last night. Olli Jokinen scored twice and Evander Kane had a goal and an assist in the second period for the surging Winnipeg Jets, who completed a dominant road trip with a 4-3 victory over the injury-riddled and slumping New York Rangers on Tuesday night. After a scoreless first period, Jokinen broke the deadlock 5 minutes 55 seconds into the second off an assist from Kane, who then gave Winnipeg a 2-0 lead 1 minute 7 seconds later in his 8th goal of the season. Anthony Peluso also had 2 assists in the period. Kane added his 2nd of the game and 9th of the season in the 3rd period, in between a pair of Rangers tallies, as 3 goals were scored in a span of 1:13 that brought New York to a 4-3. After being criticized over its name choice, Ottawa's new professional basketball team has decided to drop the word Tomahawk from its team name. The team is expected to announce a new name and logo later today. After revealing that the team would be called the Ottawa Tomahawks, a number of fans voiced their opposition on social media. Local First Nations DJ Ian Campeau tweeted at the team saying Ottawa would be set back 30 years if they named the team the Tomahawks. Last summer, Campeau also launched a campaign over social media that took an issue with the name of the Nipo Redskins football team. But the basketball team's owner, Gus Tacali, said the Tomahawk name, which was selected after a public team naming competition, is referencing a type of slam dunk rather than First Nations culture. Ottawa will begin playing at Scotiabank Place in the fall. Michael Ryder is a Hab once again. The Montreal Canadiens acquired Ryder from a 3rd-round draft pick in 2013 from Dallas for forward Eric Cole. Ryder had a career-high 35 goals for the Stars last season, along with 27 assists. He has 6 goals and 8 assists in 19 games so far this year. Ryder was drafted in the 8th round by Montreal in 1998. The native of Buena Vista, Newfoundland, had a career-high 63 points for the Habs in 2003 to 2004. In 650 career games, Ryder has 203 goals and 207 assists. Cole signed a 4-year deal with the Canadiens on July 1st, 2011 after spending 9 seasons with Carolina and 1 with Edmonton. He had 35 goals and 26 assists for the Canadiens last season, but managed just 6 points in 19 games so far this year. And Randy, that's it for sports.
Thanks, Travis. Well, we just received word, breaking news right now, that Alex Smith has been traded, or is rumored to be traded from the San Francisco 49ers to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 2013 second rounder and a 2014 second rounder. How big is that for Kansas City?
Well, I think it's big for Kansas City, but it's also big for Alex Smith being benched as starting quarterback last year. He gets to start again somewhere in Kansas City.
Yeah, he nearly has a perfect game the last time we actually see him play, and then he suffers a concussion and gets relegated to the bench. It'll be great for Kansas City and great for Alex Smith. Colin Kaepernick, I guess, is the starter here in San Francisco for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that's a position that he'll fit very well into. I think they've kind of already built an offense around him, so it's a good situation for them.
That's perfect. Well, that is all the time we have for you today. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for Brandon's only TV newscast, Westman Newsline.